Thanks, Alex. Good morning. I am proud and honored to be here today during your Veterans Day presentation. But I do have to admit that when they asked me to come here today and they told me to report to the principal's office, I was a little nervous. Because the last time I reported to the principal's office, it was not a very pleasant experience. Anyway, a little bit about me. I am the 81st Brigade Commander. I command a unit of 3,200 soldiers. We recently got back from Iraq in August from our second deployment in the last 10 years. But I want to go back a little bit and tell you a little bit about me. I joined the Army in 1973. In 1973, I was at Fort Polk, Louisiana, serving peas in a mess hall in November. I spent 2 years in the Army, and the Army transferred me out to Fort Lewis, Washington in 1975, and that's where I remained and have been a resident of Washington since then. In 1980, I got to do my dream job. I was enlisted in the Washington Army National Guard, and it's not very often that you actually get to live your dream. I became a commissioned officer in armor, and 3 years after that, I started working full-time for the National Guard. Although my uniform says U.S. Army, I think it's important for you to know that I am a part of the National Guard of Washington State. And in Washington State, the National Guard has over 6,000 soldiers and 2,000 airmen. And of the 6,000 soldiers, there's only 427 of us that are full-time. The National Guard has two missions. You may ask yourself, why did we deploy if we're a state National Guard? Well, we have two missions. One of our primary missions is working for the governor, the commander-in-chief, in which we come and support domestic operations. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And the other one is our federal mission. But I'd like to show you a clip that probably shows it a lot, explains it a lot better than I do. So can we roll that clip now?
The country has a need, you drop what you're doing and you go support.
The National Guard has two missions: protect the United States in a time of crisis, and also right there at home with your neighbors and your community in the state of an emergency.
Those are the times when you see the true colors.
This guy's a computer programmer, this guy's a police officer, this guy's a doctor. They bring those skills into their National Guard job.
They have their civilian career and their family, and then literally change clothes and they become a soldier.
We had been launched to Houston to rescue people from floods, and there was a pregnant woman. She was just absolutely terrified. Just wanted to give her a real big smile and let her know that she was okay. It's days like that, that's what makes me love what I do.
And we know the sacrifices, we know the consequences. We don't have a safe job, and we're all willing to accept that.
This is a oath, a commitment that I took, that I fully understand. I volunteered for this.
It's an everyday process. The new guys come in, old guys like me going out, hey, that's what it's supposed to be, you know.
I finally found a place where I fit in, and then my family would do anything for them.
It's very real. I mean, one day you could be doing search and rescues, the next day you could be asked to go on a deployment overseas.
The National Guard is rock solid because we believe in giving back to the country that gives us so much.
National Guard members are our sons and our daughters, our neighbors, our co-workers. It's almost the DNA of America.
As a National Guard soldier, I'm amazed by the soldiers that volunteer to be part of the National Guard. Just like you saw in the clip, they're all volunteers. During my career, I have participated in fires, floods, and 2 deployments. Back in 2004, I deployed to Iraq as a battalion commander of the 303rd Armor, which is headquartered in Kent. We received a call in October on a Friday afternoon, and no one ever calls during the workday, that the President had ordered us to active duty, the whole brigade, and that we were going to report to Fort Lewis on Monday. that evening and Saturday and Sunday to bring in 50 soldiers that were going to be started the preparation for that. And I was amazed. On Monday morning, 49 soldiers showed up at the armory. One was 2 hours late because he had to go and tell his boss that he couldn't go to work the next day, or for the next year and a half for that matter, because he was deploying and going off to war in Iraq. Soldiers of the National Guard are citizen soldiers. And what does that mean? That means they're police officers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're firemen, they're carpenters, they're students. When I deployed this last time, I had soldiers that were as young as 18 and as old as 60. Soldiers that were college students that took a year and a half off from college to go. Soldiers that had their own business that when they turned the lights off of their business, they weren't going to be able to come home to. And every day I wake up in Iraq and I would thank God that I had those soldiers with me and the patriotism and the volunteerism that they did to volunteer and go with us, because I don't know where I would have been without them. I'd like to tell you a little story about 2004 and the difference that I saw from the time I was there until the time we got back in August. In 2004 was right after the invasion and Saddam Hussein was taken from power, so the country was still in an evolutionary type process. Saddam Hussein was a supreme dictator who had two classes of people: the people he liked, who were wealthy, and the people who he didn't care for, who were the extremely poor. And I'm not going to get into the religious aspects of it because that would take us a lot longer. Baghdad itself, where we were stationed prior to the war, had power, electricity, where you turn the lights on 24 hours a day. But the rest of the country had very little power, if any. When the coalition forces took over and we were in command for a while, we started to distribute power across the country equally. In a city of 1 million plus, they had power for 4 hours a day. And that power would be intermittent, and they couldn't guarantee when that power was going to come on. I will tell you that the temperatures in the summer reach 130 degrees. I can tell you that because I saw the thermometer. I will tell you that it gets to be 30 in the wintertime, and there is no heat, and there is no air conditioning, and there is no power. Schools were non-existent because when the powers and the teachers all fled the country, so there weren't a lot of schools in 2004, so we had to basically start from scratch. My battalion had a village outside of the base. It was called Iraqi Village, and it was built for the veterans of the Iranian-Iraq War. So there were a lot of orphan kids, a lot of widows that lived in this village. The village was about 10,000 strong. My very first time to the village, we got there, it was in May. The temperature was about 95 degrees, and we were driving through 1.5 feet of water, of which the kids were playing in, and I learned later that it was actually a backed up sewer. One of the first projects that we did for the village was to clean those sewers and fix them. And we started to build schools. We actually remodeled the schools, started doing a lot of good work. We built a playground for the kids. And as we started to develop the infrastructure and people felt a lot more secure, they started to bring their businesses out.